Do I have to give up the man that represents my values? That question can be asked the United States redneck style, which is if I want to keep a refrigerator on my front grass, I'm going to keep a refrigerator on my front grass and everyone else can deal with it because that's me being a man. But before you fight for your identity, make sure it's your identity that you're fighting for, not just being reactive and being fighting for the identity that you used to have. There are many cases where the other person's issues continue to afflict us and invade and intrude our space. We have everything from Russians who have some weird logic of shooting rockets into the Ukrainian country, which is just about as logical to us as betrayal trauma. Why can't these women just be healed? Why can't they just get over it? Where do they get these rule books from? How do they come up with these rules? All right, we can spend all day long debating over the value of what they do and what they don't do, right? But what does he do next? Why am I on this planet and what is my true identity? Fight for your true identity, but make sure it's your true identity that you're fighting for, not your reactive identity or your less mature identity. Why are you fighting? Why don't you become a normal guy and enjoy quality porn?
That's such a silly question. There's no value in pornography. I don't know if you can consider any of it quality, but I fight for my family, and I fight because there are so many things that I want to do.
God is a good psychologist. This was important discovery. It's kind of a weird discovery. It's one of those duh moments. And then the unfortunate, disturbing discovery that Satan is a good psychologist also. Everything I've been taught about Satan in my current view of things is that it's archaic. Like he likes to suggest you do naughty things. He tells other people to make suggestions. He puts up billboards and leaves magazines laying around for young boys to find. And that was kind of what I was taught to watch for. No one told me that he was that sophisticated of a psychologist. Do any of you have any comments on what it was like for you to start to discover the complexities of Satan's approach to the temptation and torment process?
It was really eye-opening, the concept that Satan has been at this for 7,000 years. I never thought of it in that context. And you know, if number one up there, God is a good psychologist, is true, I think Satan is a good psychologist has to be true. He's been at the other side of this forever. I mean, he's smarter than anybody that's here on the earth, and he just has unrighteous desires as opposed to God's righteous desires to use that psychology for good. And so it really made a difference for me in my fight to understand that Satan really is powerful and wants to do me harm.
The thing I've been paying attention to lately, brethren, in my personal life and with my clients is this concept right here. Each peg represents where we have two directions we could go. Each peg forces us to go left or right, enticed by good or enticed by evil. So on the left-hand side, we have a wisdom, inspiration, and principle-based decisions. These are more guided. On the right-hand side, we have feeling-based, chemically-based, preference-based, mood-based. It appears to me what happens to going towards the right is we're pulled, we fall into it, it happens on its own, or it's like weeds that just grow on their own. But for some reason, to go to the left, it has to be planted, we have to actually strive, we have to actually fight for it. Or like a plant that we want, we have to plant and nurture it. Does it feel like this is what life actually is experienced like? You can fall toward, and it doesn't take as much effort to fall towards the negative, and it takes a little more energy to tilt towards the left where we're being more wise. The only thing that evil needs to do win is for men to do nothing, which includes not choosing, by just plopping down and then just letting gravity pull us. So let's talk about the aggravating side of what pulls us to the right. If you know your enemy and you know yourself, then you can win your battles. I think I quoted that almost correctly. This is another one of those things I'd really like to know what it's like from your perspective. When you first started considering the possibility that this negative self-talk stuff or any conversation that is designed to derail you, take you off track, what was it like the first time it started to make sense that it was not you talking to yourself, but it was an outside figure?
For me, it was really eye-opening because instead of that thought of, Satan can tempt me, Satan can attack me, it was more of a realization of he's already been attacking me. His voice has always been in my mind. It just took me this long to realize it. And that was very empowering because it's like all these battles I had in my mind, it was my voice. And like you touched before about that, is it my thoughts, is it Satan's thoughts, or is it thoughts from the Holy Ghost? how do I recognize that? What is the difference between a negative self-talk and my own thoughts, and then the spirit trying to spur me to do better? And that takes a lot of pondering and self-reflection to be able to distinguish those three voices going on in our head.
What if Satan figured out how to talk to you in your own voice, in your own head? Disturbing thought. I'm grateful that the scientists did finally come up with the phrase intrusive thoughts, but they still aren't clarifying where the thoughts are intruding from. They are still saying the intrusive thoughts are coming from yourself.
That made inspiration from the Holy Ghost, intrusive thoughts?
By definition, I would say yes, because he just puts them where you can find them. So one of the easiest ways I've been able to tell the difference between a Holy Ghost presence and a satanic attack, I don't feel compelled, like driven through fear or sex chemistry or depression or anger. I don't feel driven to act upon something from the Holy Ghost. I feel invited and encouraged. I think even the word enticed could be too strong in modern vocabulary. I feel more enticed by Satan and more invited by the Holy Ghost.
I was just thinking, I think the difference is God will never attempt to violate our agency, and that's why it's much more of a soft invitation approach. Like he usually sends the Holy Ghost to invite us instead of directly influence us.
But Satan can't take our agency either.
That is correct. He cannot take our agency. He can drop bombs that we have to learn how to fight off and how to respond to successfully and quickly. So I think about those cornerbacks. First, you have to discern correctly what's happening. Two, you have to have practiced skills so that you don't just think I should do this. You have the ability to actually do it. So that when you have an opponent who's coming at you with the intent to beat you, you have practiced with speed, strength, and accuracy, so that you have the agility, you have all the things necessary to respond correctly. The New Testament says, no temptation taken you but such is common to man. But I want to add to that we can get out of it, but not just by a simple choice. This is where I'm frustrated with the simplicity that some people suggest of all you got to do is just choose. Just here it is, and then just choose. There's way more detail to it. You cannot beat a 7,000-year-old psychologist by just choosing to beat him. You have to train and train and train and train. I choose to, if it's a pass play, I choose to, as a cornerback, I choose to check him within 5 yards. I choose to turn my hips this way. I choose my hips this way. I choose to move my feet like this. When I can sense that the ball is coming, I choose to turn my head towards the ball, and I choose to look where the ball is coming from and put my hand in the way for the pass to be received. And I choose to run fast enough to do that. Now, what's wrong with me using choose over and over again? Any athletes out there? What's missing? I've chosen it. What's missing?
You're taking the time to think. Anytime you make a choice, you're thinking, you're not reacting.
Okay, and what has to be done to get rid of the choice?
You got to do those things that you want to do so many times that it becomes natural.
Okay, now what about, so I've got it natural, but am I automatically fast enough to do that? Your brain, while it may only be able to have one thought at a time, although that's very fast, it can have multiple chemicals going at once. What was it like for you when you started to understand how chemicals affect your brain and affect your decision-making process? How did this impact your self-awareness so that you were more likely to win battles?
I think for me it was the reassurance that there is an actual chemical reaction taking place. There's something going on that sends me down that scale as opposed to it just being me.
Okay.
Me in and of myself, I make the initial choices, but they're exaggerated and compounded because of that chemical scale.
Have you gotten to the point where you can feel the chemicals hit your system? Maybe not every time, but as you pay attention, you can tell your chemicals are shifting?
I can at sometimes, and sometimes I can't. I think every once in a while I'll get to 2 or 3 and realize, oh, something just changed and I don't like it.
I know for myself, I'm pretty pleased if I can catch it by 1.5 because it's so subtle, so gradual. Actually, I'm embarrassed to say just a little bit that I'm actually more discerning in the presence of my wife because she's more reactive to me the farther I get down. She does this flinch thing. If I'm in the one zone, she starts to flinch. Like she'll just pull away. She'll go quiet. Even for her, it's involuntary. She says, I don't do that on purpose. It's your behavior becomes scary because I'm less attentive, less sensitive. I'm not watching, which makes me more dangerous. And with a person as skilled with words like I am, my words can really cut. My words can really hurt people when I'm not careful with them.